Thank you for joining. You're on to the best part of your morning. This is First Look. And with me this morning, I have Ms. Melinda Janki. She is from the Justice Institute Guyana. And Joel Simpson. He is from the Society Against Sexual Orientation Discrimination, SASOD. Morning to you, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning, Claudette.
Thank you for being here. The issue today we're talking about, as you would all know, it's the Colwyn Harding case, and we're taking right up from the developments of that case. I want to start with you, Ms. Janki. Now that Colwyn has gone for medical examination and treatment and so on in Jamaica, where is the Institute of Justice going from there? How are we going to ensure that when he comes back, all the proceedings that have been called for have been taken?
Thank you, Claudette. I think the first thing to note is the fact that Colwyn Harding has gone abroad doesn't mean the issue is over. It's very much live, and it's very important that we get justice for this young man. And the first thing that needs to happen, people need to know the truth. So first and foremost, I think there has to be an independent investigation into this. It's no good saying, let the police do an investigation. Police officers cannot investigate their colleagues. That is not unique to Guyana. You see it all over the world. It's very, very difficult for a police officer to investigate his colleagues. So the first thing is that it must be an independent and impartial investigation. And people have to see that it is impartial and independent. We can't have doubts about it, because then there will be doubts about the truth. And the people of Guyana, we are entitled to know the truth. We are the taxpayers. We pay for the police force.
Well, this is a call from various sectors of the society calling for the independent inquiry. And also we heard Minister of Home Affairs, Clement Rohi, he was also saying that he wants to get to the truth. When do you think this independent inquiry should start, you know, the commission to get set up and all that? Because we had the instance from the Linden issue that happened during last year, or was it the year before, right? On that police incident as well, and then, you know, the case drawn out, and then we see some people not being satisfied with what they have been awarded. In this case, when do you see the commission of inquiry being set up?
Well, Colette, I'm not sure that a commission of inquiry is the way to go. We want to find the truth, but I don't think it's necessary to have a huge commission, spend all that money, go through an adversarial process in that way in order to get at the truth. I think what we need is an inquisitorial process where questions are asked by someone that the public has confidence in. And maybe the thing to do now is to look for a panel to get a retired judge. Perhaps I think it's best not to have someone from Guyana at the moment, because
well, that would incur costs too.
It will incur costs, but we have the money in this country. Look how much money was spent on the Linden Commission of Inquiry. So I think it's very, very important as a nation that we demand the truth, and it's very important that we do this in the right way. I think one of the options would be to ask a retired judge to come to do this. And when I say to come to do this, I am suggesting that we ask for someone from overseas who has no connection with Guyana, no political connection with Guyana, and whom people can trust. Trust is very important. The government has to do everything now to restore public trust,
so
to
you're
restore
seeing
public confidence.
One justice, and what, the rest will be local people on that commission?
I think that has to be a discussion. There are pros and cons both ways, but I would suggest perhaps a retired judge from somewhere like South Africa. South Africa has enormous experience with Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. They have excellent judges. Perhaps a retired judge from South Africa, and we could leave it to that judge, leave it to him or her, to advise on what would be the best structure for the panel. I think 3 people would be good, and that would be a good start. But the important thing is to get the truth, and we do that by having independent people that the citizens of Guyana can have confidence in, and that they ask questions. An adversarial process is not the right one for this investigation. We want the truth. We don't want people making capital out of this. We don't want people fighting up and then the truth somehow is supposed to emerge. It doesn't. We want people to ask questions and we want statements being prepared, and I think this has to be done in a way that everyone can see. This is the right process. We can have confidence in this process.
All right, I want to bring in Joel here, your organization's input into this whole thing. And the thing is, we have this most recent case now, coming right on the heels of this Colwyn Harding sodomization. Another one happening only yesterday?
This week. Well, it was in the press yesterday.
Yes.
SASOD just put out a statement yesterday echoing some of the same sentiments that Melinda from Justice Institute Guyana has made, that we need an immediate, independent, impartial investigation into this incident to get at the truth. And if we find that the allegations made by Colwyn Harding are true, that the perpetrators should be arrested, charged, tried, and brought to justice and punished according to the law, right? So I think it's very important that the powers that be, the police, agencies responsible for the supervision of the Police Complaints Authority, the Ministry of Home Affairs, that they understand that they get that. We also think that these incidents of police excesses, in recent years, there have been so many cases popping up. We know about the torture case of the 14-year-old boy Thomas in 2009, I believe it was, and so on. Very vivid on the front page of the Kaitro News and so on. And all of these incidents, they're pointing to a certain pattern. And now this week another allegation has surfaced about this 16-year-old.
And it seems then, just as you're saying, it's a pattern that somehow it just can't stop, because we have this Colwyn Harding issue so hot in the air, and then you have another one just of the same thing, right?
So we're in the process of trying to investigate that matter. We don't know who the 16-year-old is, but if persons are viewing, listening to the program, know who the person is, we'd be happy if that person could come to SASOD or the Justice Institute to make a report, so we could assist them. I think it's also important that viewers understand, if ever they find themselves in a situation like this, they need to immediately seek medical assistance as soon after as possible the incident has occurred, so that there's medical evidence of what happened, and two, that they get legal assistance immediately. They could contact Legal Aid, the Guyana Bar Association, or any of the human rights groups in Guyana working on these issues. Justice Institute Guyana, SASOD, Red Shred, and there are others.
Do you think there's a difference in this case? Because what we are hearing also, allegedly, that this 16-year-old male is a commercial sex worker. Do you find any difference in him being that? With what
well, I think that I find is very problematic, because a 16-year-old is still a child. So I find it difficult to describe a child at 16 being a sex worker. I would describe him as a child in sex work. That is one. Okay. Two, I think it's completely irrelevant what this 16-year-old does to survive at 16. The reason why this 16-year-old is obviously on the streets, the reports that he's just out of a NOC, New Opportunity Corps, and so on, is obviously because his needs are not being met. I don't know his situation. He might be an orphan. You know, who are his guardians? We don't know these questions and so on. So I think that's irrelevant, and we shouldn't judge this 16-year-old child. We need to remember at the end of the day is a child, and no child should be a sex worker, right? It's really just the circumstances.
And should be assaulted by
by police, and that doesn't excuse it or justify it or reduce it in any way. And once we get in touch with this child, find out who he is, get in touch with his guardians and so on, we're willing to provide just as much assistance and representation and advocacy as we can, were it anybody else.
Have you heard anything coming out from the officials, let's say from the Home Affairs Ministry, with their inquiries into what's happening, apart from them placing the accused on close arrest and probably transferred from Timeri in the Colwyn Harding case. Is there anything else going from there other than him saying that he hasn't done the act?
Well, I think, what we know is what we see in the press as well, that has happened, but I think there are lots of public actions continuing to highlight the issue. I know that there's a protest at 1:30 today at the corner of Brickdam and High Street. I want to encourage members of the public to come out. It's at 1:30 because Parliament starts at 2, and we want to get the attention of our elected officials in the National Assembly. And there are other actions to raise public awareness and to keep this issue alive and to keep it in the public domain. On February 9th, the Guyana Equality Forum, which is a coalition of civil society organizations that the Justice Institute and SASOD are involved in, we're hosting a big walk for equality. It's a Sunday. It starts at 3 p.m. from the parade ground, and the theme is No to Violence. And we're planning to have victims of violence, family members and survivors speak out at a very public rally after. There are free t-shirts for the first 100 persons that come, and we're asking all members of the public to come out. We'd like to have 1,000 persons strong on the street saying no to violence. So I want to encourage members of the public to make their contribution as well. I think this is a collective struggle for justice and equality, and everyone has a role to play.
All right, Ms. Janki, do you foresee, I mean, when we're planning these things, we have to also cater that, just in case it doesn't go how we plan, any contingency plan as to if something doesn't go the way your institute is leading, what will be your alternative?
I think as a people we have to say enough is enough. This isn't just the Justice Institute Guyana that is saying enough is enough. There are many, many organizations who are speaking out about this, and I agree completely with Joelle. People have to say no. They have to continue writing to the press. They have to write to their elected representatives and say to them, what are you doing about justice? The protest this afternoon, I hope people will go. The walk for equality that we are doing on the 9th of February, I would encourage everyone to come out to that. It's time for the ordinary people in Guyana to make a statement and to say, no, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We want to see change, and these are the changes we want. We want to know the truth. Where a police officer has behaved in this way towards someone, transferring him is not good enough. We need to know what happened, and then if there is sufficient evidence, that police officer should be charged, tried, and he must get a fair trial. It must be seen that the judicial process can work, and he must be sentenced and dealt with, unless police officers are dealt with, unless they have sanctions imposed on them. This is going to continue. Let me give you an example. A few months ago in the United States, there were thousands of people protesting on the streets against police brutality. It's continuing because there is a culture of getting away with it. We cannot afford to have that in Guyana. We have to put a stop to it, and we have to say when this happens, there must be sanctions. You can suspend the police officer if it's not very serious. You can sack him if it's more serious. But where there is a criminal offense, then he is not above the law, he or she. That person should be dealt with through the criminal justice system in an impartial way, but through the criminal justice system. That's what it's there for. Nobody is above the law.
Joel, you've been especially involved in protest action and so on. Do you find that in Guyana, the protesting that we've been doing for various reasons and various cases, do you think they're really getting the...
I think demonstrations are important for raising public consciousness and awareness. And if we are not out there on the streets, if we're not out there occupying public space, getting the attention of the media, getting the attention of the public, then the issue dies away. The next scandal takes up newsprint in the papers and takes over the broadcast news, and people forget about Colwyn Harding. People forget about the 16-year-old boy. People forget about Thomas, who was tortured, and so on and so on. And that's the point Melinda's making about it continues to happen. So demonstrations are important for visualizing the solidarity that we have with Colwyn Harding and all other victims of police excesses.
Mm-hmm. One last question before we go. Just want you to weigh in, especially where it comes to police, and we've been hearing many people cross-section talking about the kinds of people that are taken into the police force that have been recruited. We have been hearing, because you know, you would pick it up, that there are certain people who, let's say, apply or go into the force with their own agenda. You know, they want to get back at probably somebody who has done them something or something. How do you see that the recruitment of the police force? Do you think they should take maybe a different look at the people they're taking in?
Well, let me say first of all, that problem is not unique to Guyana. That is a problem that police forces face the world over. Every police force at some stage or another is going to attract the wrong people. So we shouldn't think that in any way we're facing a unique problem. What I think we need to do is remember this is an extremely difficult job. It can be a very dangerous job. We have police officers who are killed in the line of duty. And the walk against violence is also to say this has to stop. We have to look at what is happening to our police officers and the conditions that they operate under and say that has to change. In terms of recruitment, I think unless we pay police officers well, we are not going to attract the best people. Unless we provide very good education and training, then even the best people are going to make mistakes. And even with good pay, extremely good training, well-disciplined police force, things will still go wrong. And at that stage, the public have to say, this must be dealt with. We must put a stop to this. But the starting point is that we must have a professional, well-paid, well-resourced police force that sees its job as protecting the public. First and foremost, they are there to protect the public.
You last say you have, Joel.
Yeah, well, I would just probably want to reinforce the public actions, because we're talking to your viewers really, that they could participate in. The protest today, Thursday, at Brick Dam, at the corners of Brick Dam and High Streets from 1:30 p.m. sharp. We're asking all members of the public to come out and protest in solidarity for Colwyn Harding and all other victims of police excesses and brutality, and also to participate in the Walk for Equality by saying no to violence on February 9th, starting at 3 p.m. from the parade ground. The first 100 persons will get a free t-shirt, a free Guyana Equality Forum t-shirt, and we'll be moving off sharply at 3:15.
That's on February 9th.
That's on Sunday, February 9th.
All right, thank you very much, Melinda Janki from the Justice Institute Guyana. It's an independent organization, and Mr. Joel Simpson from the Society Against Sexual Orientation Discrimination, SASOD.